All right, hello everybody. Today we're here to talk about leveraging Kodaris to process embedded card transactions within Cloud Suite distribution. So this is some capabilities that we delivered initially early in 2025 and really excited to be able to bring it to the market and offer CSD customers an alternative when it comes to processing credit card transactions within the CSD application. So I just want to take some time and talk a little bit about Kodaris and payment processing. So Kodaris has actually been doing payment processing since 2018, so maybe 6 or 7 years now already. And we've been processing payments across our platform. So whether that's taking a credit card or ACH payment at commerce checkout for your customers, whether it's your customers logging into the customer portal to make a payment online against their account, so to pay down their open accounts receivable, or your employees, the distributor's employees, logging into the Kodaris operations portal and posting a payment against a customer's account. So taking a credit card and paying it against invoices through the operations portal. And the reason that our CSD or Infor customers will do that is it streamlines the process. It allows them to take the payment and select the invoices they want to pay in one step. And then we're processing the lockbox file to apply the cash appropriately in CSD once the payment is complete. So those are payment flows that we've been doing for years now. What we're introducing with this new functionality is embedded Cloud Suite distribution point of sale payments. So when you're in sales order entry and you're taking an order from the customer, whether the customer is standing in front of you and it's a card present transaction, or it's over the phone and they're giving you their credit card information or using a stored card to be able to run that card right from within order entry and Cloud Suite distribution, get the authorization returned, process the transaction. Again, streamlining the efficiency there. I mentioned this already, but we've been doing these payment flows for years, ACH payments, EFT in Canada, and then merchant card in both US and Canada as terms of the payment flows and payment types that are available to Kodaris customers. One of the things that we recognize at Kodaris and that I know is critical from my past experiences, anytime you're getting into payment processing, whether it's through the commerce channel, through the portals we talked about, or through CSD, embedded within CSD, is making sure that we're maintaining the regulatory and compliance requirements for payment processing. And so, again, this is a big deal for us at Kodaris. We take on this responsibility for our customers. So we are a Visa, MasterCard merchant service provider. We've got the PCI compliance. We're audited annually. We have publicly traded customers, so we go through annual audits to make sure we're maintaining SOC 2 Type 2 and SOC 1 Type 2 compliance. We have introduced the ability for our customers to turn on surcharging. So if you wanted to surcharge your customers when they pay with a credit card to try to recoup some of those processing fees, we've enabled surcharging. And again, compliance with surcharging is key. What types of payments can be surcharged? What geographies or states are surchargeable? What transactions are surcharged? What's the surcharge amount? Are we maintaining compliance across all transactions? So we have a heavy focus as we introduce surcharging to the distribution marketplace to make sure we're maintaining compliance. And then I know this was a big one as we've talked to customers to make sure we're sending the level 2 and 3 data over to the processor, and that helps to minimize those processing fees, those transaction fees, by sending more data. So just to come back, making sure we're maintaining regulatory and compliance issues and really taking on as those regulatory and compliance requirements change, making sure that we are staying on top of that and maintaining compliance. So really what we wanted to focus on today was these embedded Cloud Suite distribution payments. And so one of the big things as we as our engineering team worked to develop and bring Kodaris payment processing, which, as I mentioned, we've been doing for years, into CSD, was to how are we going to do that, and how are we going to make this as simple as possible for Cloud Suite distribution users, both to administrate and set up, but then for the end users to be able to take advantage of when they're working with customers. And so as we built out this integration, we took advantage of the framework as it exists within CSD. So we're leveraging the existing setup screens. We'll go in and take a look at some of those. We're leveraging the same user experience and payment flows at checkout time. So if you're using embedded payments today with an alternative solution, the buttons are the same, the capabilities are the same. Is it an authorization? Is it a sale? Those capabilities won't change. Really, what's changing is the back end of how the payment is being processed through Kodaris now, and then the authorization being returned. But again, that should be seamless from a setup or an end user experience perspective. We can process both card present and card not present transactions. So card not present could be that the customer is providing me with the card details at the time of payment, but we can also leverage the stored cards capability within CSD. So not only do I want to be able to take the card detail from the customer, I also want to store that card so it can be used later as a stored card for that particular customer account. In terms of card present, if you are using terminals to capture cards, we have economical and modern terminal options. We'd love to talk to you about what those are and show you some demonstrations about how they work. But good economical options in terms of card present and the terminals at point of sale. Doing touchless transactional processing, so tap to pay, including things like Apple Pay and Google Pay from your mobile device, your customer's mobile device. We made sure, knowing that the capabilities exist today, that we're able to use those devices to capture an electronic signature. So even when it's not a payment we're processing, but you just want to capture a pickup signature at point of sale or at point of order, we can use the devices to capture and store those electronic signatures back into CSD. As I mentioned, we are enabling surcharging for our customers. So if for those customers who choose to implement surcharging and try to recoup some of those merchant processing fees, in order to maintain compliance, there are some things you need to do. One of them is you need to be able to present the surcharge amount as a unique line on the customer receipt. So we're bringing that information in, calculating the surcharge, but also then showing it on the receipt for the customer. So, part of that compliance path. And then, finally, Kodaris is a platform of solutions, a platform of capabilities, including things like e-commerce, customer portal for self-service, operations portal for things like data management, automation. It is not required that you be a Kodaris platform customer to take advantage of the embedded payments within CSD. So we can work with you just to leverage Kodaris as a payment platform for those embedded payments within CSD. We also recognize that one of the big requests or requirements from folks as they start to look at embedding those payments, those credit card transactions within CSD, within the transactional areas of the system, is that nightly reconciliation. So to be able to see the transactions that were processed during a period of time, to be able to balance that against the ERP data, whether you're using the cash drawer settlement or you just want to look at the payments that were collected. So we've got multiple options and opportunities to simply pull and report on and leverage those reports for reconciliation. Either if you're a Kodaris platform user, we have a dashboard in Kodaris that can show you all the payments made, filtered down to all the surcharges collected over a period of time, for a day, for an hour, whatever the case might be. If you're not a Kodaris platform user, you can take advantage of our partners portal. So in this case, you're seeing a screenshot of the MX Merchant portal. They've got robust reporting capabilities to be able to pull and consume those transactions, not only for identifying what was processed, but also for reconciliation purposes when you're trying to tie out to those ERP transactions. So at this point, what I wanted to do is just jump in and give a quick demonstration within Cloud Suite Distribution of what the screens look like, how the tools work. We'll also run through a couple of transactions, show you as I'll process some payments within Cloud Suite Distribution. So here we are in CSD. Just to reiterate what we talked about in terms of taking advantage of the current framework that exists within Cloud Suite Distribution in terms of the setup screens and the functionality that exists. So as we kind of navigate through, and I always say this is going to be a little bit of a boring demo because if you're using these screens already, they're going to look very familiar to what you're used to. So as we look at the credit card processor setup, this is the initial setup. You'll see where, again, this screen is the same as it's been if you're using alternative methods for embedded credit card processing. So what's the name of the processor? What's the processor type? You'll notice Kodaris now as an option in terms of processor type within CSD. And then you've got some setup screens, and we'll work with you as we enable your different processors on what needs to be populated here. We're always processing level 2 and 3. And then what's the pop-up window that shows in, or the iframe or modal that pops up when you're accepting a payment in order entry. But again, want to reiterate, this is the screen as it existed prior to Kodaris implementation. We took advantage of the existing framework and just built out our integration through that existing CSD capability. A couple of other screens I wanted to jump to, still set up, but if I go into the table code value setup, we've got payment types. So once again, we've got the different payment types that can be defined. So we've got a Kodaris payment type, same field, same screen that's been in CSD for years now. So we're going to define the payment type description. What bank is it associated with? Yes, this is a credit card. What processor is payment type pointed to? Same thing down below in terms of where is this going to post to the GL, but also if you're using pre-authorizations as opposed to posting sales at payment time, the ability to implement an add-on, either dollars or percentage. And we often see that when companies want to build in a cushion. For example, if they're expecting additional dollars to need to be associated with the payment at shipping point for freight. So again, taking advantage of the same features and functions that have been available for years within CSD. In addition, we can allow for the user to define the frequency. You can define the frequency that you want to run the reauthorization process. So there's a routine that many customers set up to run nightly. It's the credit card setup, or ARSOC, and that actually will go through, and part of that job is to reauthorize any transactions that are out there so that you don't let that authorization go stale and then realize it when you're trying to ship the product and run the card that the authorization has expired. So, again, reiterating, using all the same tools and capabilities. If we come in the same table code setup, the merchant IDs, so the ability to set up and define multiple merchant IDs. And this really becomes important for a few different reasons. We have customers that have multiple branches and have made the decision they want to define and set up a unique MID or merchant ID per branch. Not necessarily a requirement, but some believe it simplifies reconciliation. Another reason why you would want to set up multiple merchant IDs is because we can define surchargeable merchant IDs and non-surchargeable merchant IDs. So if you decide to implement surcharging on credit card transactions, you will need surchargeable merchant ID for those states that allow surcharge, and a non-surchargeable MID for those states that do not allow. So again, just taking advantage of the existing framework. To follow up on the multi-merchant, there is a screen that's warehouse description payment. So this is where, for an individual warehouse or branch, as a CSD user, you can come in, At that branch, you can then define what's the primary payment type that's being used in that branch, or for each payment type, and then what's the merchant ID. So this is where we get back to surchargeable or non-surchargeable, or having a unique merchant ID per warehouse or branch location. So just leveraging the framework that CSD enables. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and jump into sales order entry, and we'll run a couple of transactions. So here I'll start an order, use my favorite customer, Electric. We'll add a line item to that order. And so now I'm going to go ahead and jump to the collect payment option within order entry for Cloud Suite distribution. Once again, the screen's going to look like you're used to. So the ability to say, I want to take a payment for the whole order or for just shipped products, to do a percentage. As I scroll down, you'll see the payment, the process payment options here. And again, you can default the payment type across the board or by customer. I'm going to choose the Kodaris credit card payment type. Now, in this case, with this customer, I have multiple stored cards, so I can use a stored card here if I chose to. I also have the opportunity to come over here and add a new card or modify an existing card. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and do a one-time sale. So I'm going to click one-time sale. When I click one-time sale, because this is the first time I'm entering a payment in the order entry screen, it's asking me to open a journal, standard CSD capability. Am I going to do this at a terminal, or am I going to do a card not present transaction? And that's what I'm going to do here. So I'm going to select card not present, what type of card, the name on the card number, expiration, CVV, address and postal code, which are required fields, and that's part of that level 2 and 3 processing. So I'll go ahead and click submit. So it's returned, it's been approved. It's returned the amount. This is a non-surchargeable location, so there is no surcharge calculated. At this point, I can print the receipt, or I can finish the transaction. And what you'll see here now is that card's been run. It did get run as a sale, and we'll talk about the difference between sale and authorization. As I come down here, I can take a look at the payment history, so I can see that payment has been made. Just like we've always had in CSD, the ability to then look at the authorization details, including the authorization code, the token, the status, etc. So nothing new here, just showing that once we ran that card through Kodaris as a payment processor, it returned the authorization and updated the payment history for that particular transaction. So I'm going to go ahead and finish that transaction. Do I want to set it as shipped? Sure, I can do that. And just go ahead and enter another order here. So I'm going to enter a second order. I sell a lot of these screwdrivers, so we'll add that to the order. We'll jump over here and collect payment. Now in this case, I'm going to go ahead and run this as a Kodaris payment type, and I'm going to choose to run it against a stored card. So I can select one of these stored cards, indicate the amount that I want to pay, and then simply accept payment. And in that case, there's the card approval that came back. Now, by default, you notice this is not a sale, this is an authorization. So it did run the approval, it did run the card, but by default in Cloud Suite distribution, all transactions are run as an auth and not a sale. And that's fine. So we'll hold that authorization. As I mentioned before, we'll refresh that authorization periodically based on the setup in the background. And then once this order or some portion of this order is shipped, that authorization would be converted to a sale as part of the normal CSD processing. So I'll finish this transaction again, and we'll go ahead and we'll enter a couple of more transactions here, and then we can talk about different payment flows that are available. But I'll add another line item. So as I mentioned, we'll go to collect payment. all stored card or stored card transactions are processed as an auth, not a sale. But there is functionality in CSD to actually say, no, I want to run those through as a sale. So I'm going to choose that same stored card, but I'm going to select this non-refundable credit card option here, standard option within CSD. We do see customers that want to default that to be checked so that all cards are run, stored cards are run as a sale and not an authorization. So simply by checking that checkbox and accepting the payment, it'll go out, it'll authorize and approve the card, return the authorization. But notice now it's coming through as a sale. So we're not doing a pre-authorization. We're running that as a sale immediately when we tender the card. So at this point, what we've learned in working with our customers who have implemented or are in production with Kodaris payments embedded in CSD is there are a whole bunch of different payment flows that can occur. Some of which I never even thought I never even recognized. But some simple ones. If I do a return authorization and I'm linking it to the original invoice, does it recall the original payment type that I can return the credit against that payment type? The answer is yes. To something as a little bit more unusual, the customer, we take an order, the customer wants 10 of a particular product, we run the card for 10, sale or auth. We recognize there's only 8 when we get out to the shelf. We want to go back into the order, change the quantity on the order to 8, cancel the back order. What will happen to that payment? So again, we can credit back to the original payment type for the difference within the transaction. So it doesn't need to be processed as a second transaction. And when I first heard that scenario, I asked the customer, does that happen a lot? It seems like an outlier. And they said it happens every single day. So the point of my stories here is to just reiterate that we've really not only created the backend integration leveraging the CSD framework, but we have, in conjunction with our customers, really run through every payment option we could think of to make sure that we're addressing those scenarios, even the one-off or unusual scenarios that occur when we talk about taking credit card or card payments embedded within Cloud Suite distribution. So we'd love the opportunity to continue this conversation with you. Please don't hesitate to reach out to the Kodaris team and we can set up a meeting. We can dive deeper, run through those different payment scenarios, answer the questions that you may have on implementation and what is the impact of things like implementing surcharging and those kinds of things. We believe we offer a highly competitive solution with regards to processing fees and transaction fees, but we'd love to continue to have those conversations with you. So please don't hesitate to reach out. Look forward to talking soon.